Read junk.
Read junk.
Read junk.
Podcast.
Read Junk Podcast with your host, my guy.
Hey, what's going on? This is the Read Junk Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Krumko. How's everyone's summer going? Mine's going well. I got my wedding anniversary coming up. I got my birthday coming up. We got Radix Fest happening at Gramercy Theater on my birthday on July 19th. So please come out to that if you can. I'll be celebrating my birthday all weekend with my family and stuff, so that should be fun. I'll be definitely hanging out and partying on July 19th, so come on out to that show if you can, if you're in the area. For this episode, I talk with frontman and trombone player Chris Malone of the Pandemics, who is about to embark on a new tour with his ska band. They're going to be hitting up Brooklyn, PA, some Midwest cities like Chicago and places in Minnesota and Michigan. And then they'll be playing some more shows down in the New York area as well. I think in August they're playing with the Scapones from the UK and the Bosstones at Webster Hall. So we talk about their tour, Chris visiting Tokyo, Chris playing in Spider Nick, Rudy Crew, Bigger Thomas, as well as his current band, the Pandemics. At the end, I play a game of Goldblum trivia with him, since he's always sending me Jeff Goldblum news to me on Facebook. So I thought I would get a little bit of payback with him and ask him some questions. So have a listen, spread the word, share the podcast with friends on social media. You can listen to the episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, just wherever you get podcasts, pretty much. Be sure to follow Read Junk on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all like at Read Junk. So let's get into it. Here's my chat with Chris Malone of the Pandemics. So I'm with Chris Malone of the Pandemics and of a lot of other ska bands you've been in. So you're going on tour. So let's talk about your tour first.
Sure. My band, the Pandemics, we're heading out on tour. We're doing from July 18th to July 25th. It was the 26th, but we lost the date at the end. And to be honest, I think we're all kind of happy about that. Not that we lost the date, but just that we'll be able to take our time getting home and we're not rushing every night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what happened? Just lack of interest or something, or?
Honestly, it was just, everyone gets busy in the summertime, and it's just one of those things. We reached out to a bunch of people, and a few of the people we thought would come through for us just unfortunately got a little overwhelmed, I guess, because there's other tours going on, and there are festivals that are going on, and it's par for the course. These things happen, and yeah. I think it was in New Jersey, so it's not like we're never going back to New Jersey again.
Yeah.
But all the important ones seem to have stuck. I mean, believe it or not, we're still dealing with confirming little details of dates. Even though we're leaving like next Thursday, we're still I just confirmed the venue for Chicago last night.
just a little bit last minute.
Yeah. I mean, just one of those things, you think you have everything set and then something goes off the rails and you have to scramble to put it back together.
Believe me, being behind the scenes for the show that I'm doing has just been a big headache, and I don't know how someone can put a whole tour together. Honestly, it's just for one show. It's like, oh my God, I just want to go back to being a spectator.
Oh, I know the feeling. It's like it takes on a whole nother dimension when you set up your own show. Like I've been booking shows since 2001, and just like locally around New York and Long Island, and it takes on a whole nother dimension of responsibility, and there's all these little details that you don't even think about when you're just going to a show. Like you have to think about the sound system in the club. You have to think about the equipment that the bands need to borrow or use. Yeah. You got to think about staff concerns, who's working the door, if you need a security guard, that kind of thing.
Backlines, set times. Oh, this band's not promoting it enough. Oh, that's such and such.
It takes on a whole other dimension.
Yeah.
That you have to think about as a fan or even as a musician sometimes. Like, I mean, if you're a musician, you're playing a show, your job is to, practice, play music, promote, and show up. And then you get to come and go. But the person running the show is, literally on the clock all night. Yeah. It's not like going out having drinks, having fun. You're literally like watching, looking at your watch and, trying to keep things going. You're queuing up songs between bands or helping move DJ equipment. That's another, thing that happens. And Yeah.
Well, it's just my idea. I'm not going to do any of that crap, but let someone else do it.
I hear you.
I came up with this. So you're playing July 18th in Brooklyn. So who are you playing with that show?
All right. So that's our tour kickoff show. It's at
Yeah.
60 Congress in Greenpoint, which is a new venue. I think it was something else, as so many things in New York tend to be, just a couple months ago. But we're playing with our good friends Cop Out, who are like a, punk band. They're made up of a bunch of the people that help run Punk Island. We're playing with Pre-K Dropout, who are like more of a pop punk band who they recruited a couple of our horn players for a single they released last year. So we've stayed in touch with those guys. We played with them in Punk Island last year, actually, too, on the same stage.
Did you play this year or no?
No. There was some shenanigans. They're a festival that gets a lot of attention, so they do their best to try and mix it up every year. So we respect that, and hopefully we'll be invited back soon. But just gets better and better every year. So we always love playing Punk Island. And the last band on that bill is Barbicide, who is a brand new project. This is their first show.
Brendog, right?
Yep, Brendog and Jerica and the Call, and Arena. I think it's a bass player. It's their first show, ex-members of Memphis Scoffleas and the Scofflaws, and Brendan's been sending me tracks as they've been going along, and they sound awesome. I can't wait to see those guys.
I think I played one of their songs last year that Brendog sent me. It was like the cover of was it Eve of Destruction, that song?
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think they did that cover. Yeah, so that's cool.
Yep.
And then who you playing out in so you're going out to the Midwest, going to Pennsylvania?
Yep. The total architecture of the tour is basically one big loop out to Minneapolis and back. And originally what I had planned to do, I've done a little bit of touring with Pilfers, and what they typically do is they'll leave on like a Wednesday, but they'll drive all of Wednesday to get out and start like a weekend, do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and be home on Sunday if they're doing something like semi-regional and it's not like a full tour. So I wanted to do that idea, but it's worked out that I found gigs every single day to and from. So it worked out great.
Convenient, yeah.
Yep.
Is this like your first tour for the Pandemics that like out there? Like an extensive tour for like a week straight or whatever it is?
No, actually, we've done two before this. It's the last couple of years we've sort of been we've been dealing with membership changes. Just we had we changed over an entire rhythm section last year. So last year is very much a rebuilding year, and oddly enough, one of our most rewarding show years we've had. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We did the Slackers Holiday show last year. We did shows with Fishbone, Toots and the Maytals.
Oh, at the Chance, that's right. Okay. How was that show at the Chance?
We love playing at the Chance. It's a really cool older room, that main stage room. Like there's not many, big amphitheater kind of stages left in New York. So that was really cool.
Yeah. We
haven't played there in a couple of years. I always love playing there, but they don't really do many ska shows anymore.
No.
And it's
the turnout sucks. Real often.
Yeah. No, not to speak ill of any of our friends up in Poughkeepsie, but you guys need to get those.
Get your shit together.
Yeah. But it's just the crew we had before then. Don't disrespect anybody in the band, but we had a lot of people that were teachers, so they don't really like traveling outside of the summer break. And the thing is, you had a bunch of people that would be working all year, and the last thing they want to do is detract from vacation time and all the personal stuff that they basically can't do throughout the year. So we've had a brand new crew of people. And, we still have, two teachers in the band. So we're still, we respect everybody's personal commitments, but it's nice to be out on the road again. So the last two tours we did probably about 5 years ago and 3 years ago, or 6 years ago and 4 years ago. I can't remember the exact dates. But we did one tour out to the Midwest in, I want to say, maybe 7 years ago, 2011 or 2012. And it's 2012, because that's when Brand on Tap came out. And then 2 years later, we did one sort of more down south. Like we went out to Tennessee and worked our way back up the East Coast that way. So it's nice to be going back to the Midwest. We want to eventually do things like the West Coast and go overseas. Like I'm trying to lay the groundworks right now for Japan in the next year or so.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that later. That you visited Tokyo, but were you just over there for a vacation and kind of went and saw some shows over there?
Well, I keep on going off on tangents.
Sorry, I have a list here, but I'm like, I might as well cover it.
It's all right. We can let it just flow naturally, and then
Yeah.
questions to sort of rein it back in. So the first time, this was actually my second time in Japan. I went on tour with this band that I was a founding member of, Caricatura, which is they were more of a Latin, gypsy, reggae, funk, soul. They played a lot of different stuff, and they basically created this label for themselves of World Indie.
Okay.
And they decided very early on that their main thing was going to be touring. Like, they were going to go tour Europe, they were going to tour South America, Asia, and for 10 years or 9 years or so they did that. For 2 months out of the year, every year, just going on these month-long tours, and in the States, outside of the States. But the first tour, like within a year of playing shows, they decided they wanted to go to Japan. So that was sort of my last hurrah with those guys. And it was one of the most artistically fulfilling groups I've ever been a part of. But they were just on it all the time, and I got a job and a wife. And,
yeah.
So it's one of those things where I wish them well, and they really kind of carried the torch. They just hung it up last year, actually, after a decade. So I mean, mission accomplished, I guess. Did a great job, great music. Anyways, Japan. When I was there the first time, I kind of fell in love with the city of Tokyo and the cities we played. We played in Hiroshima and Kyoto, and then a bunch of dates around Tokyo. And just my wife, it was a really relaxed tour. So everyone's wives and girlfriends came with them, and we always said we wanted to go back. And my wife just finished up getting her degree as a paramedic. Mm-hmm. So she's had a lot of free time to kill, and she was just like, plane tickets right now on Skyscanner are only $700 a piece. We should, jump on that before I get a job. So that was like reason enough to go, and it just sort of worked out that we traveled during the
yeah.
I mean, normally they're like double that. So I mean, we just said it's now or never, and or not now or never, but this is a good time to go.
Yeah.
And I think the reason they were so cheap is we went during this period called Golden Week, which is a national holiday or a string of national holidays in Japan, where basically the entire country goes on vacation.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of people traveling abroad, or a lot of people traveling basically anywhere that has, things that families can do, like families with kids, they're going to be there. So like amusement parks, like Disney was swamped. We didn't go to Disney, but just tourist attractions in general were really hectic.
Okay, so you should have went on the Tron ride over there. It's supposed to be really good.
I've not kept up with my Disney trends.
I'm going there. Going there in September. I can't wait. Not in Tokyo, but Florida.
That's awesome. But it's for us, it just sort of worked out. Like, figured, you know what, going to it's like New York City on Labor Day weekend. Nobody wants to be in the city. Like, what, Tokyo is kind of where I want to be. So the city being a little more empty, or even a little more relaxed during that time, it seems like a good idea, a great deal. And it just so happened, I got there was a bunch of shows going on because everyone's off of work. So they had planned to do all these concerts and stuff, and that was really cool. And while I was there, I met a bunch of people from different bands like Mason's Party, Seven Step. I'm blanking all the names now. I've got to reconnect with my friends in Aura Ska Band, who we played with here in New York a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
I got to meet Tatsuyuki Hiyomuto, who is he used to be sort of occupy the singer role in Tokyo Sky Paradise Orchestra. He has a band called The Man now, or More The Man, actually.
Okay.
They had a weird name change. They were called The Man, and then a couple people left, and they said, well, we still want to do this, so we're calling ourselves More The Man, kind of like More Specials. but phenomenal band. And just it worked out that there happened to be all these shows, and it was awesome. So I want to try and set up something like that for pandemics, and there's been interest from a couple other bands who I really shouldn't, talk about just yet, that might want to join us on that venture.
Yeah.
Probably should wait until that's real.
Yeah. So I mean, the ska scene's still pretty good over there, right? I mean, it's how there's.
It has its moments. I'd say it's not. I think it's kind of ducks back down below the mainstream. What I've noticed in Japan is that like there are certain trends that sort of mirror the U.S., but they're always a couple years behind. Like, the early 2000s in the U.S., the Agrolites popped up, and then instantly there were dirty reggae bands everywhere. And, Japan is kind of, in the last couple of years, have been going through that phase themselves a little bit too. And it's interesting to watch. But the one festival I went to, I think it was Hoppin' and Skankin' or Hoppin' and Steppin' Festival in Kawasaki. It was like 20 bands. And what they did is just had 20-minute sets on. They split this big stage in half and just brought a curtain out, so you'd basically get like the Warped Tour effect. So people would play on one side and they'd be setting up on the other side, and they just move over. And it was a great show. I mean, Daleks, Seventh Step, Japonicans, who I saw in New York years ago.
I don't know any of these bands you're listening. I'm like, I don't know. I gotta get into more ska, I guess.
The Autocratics are another good one. It's got the guitarist from Rude Bones in the band.
I know Rude Bones.
Yeah.
Kimuri.
There was a band called The Redemption that has the bass player from Kimuri that played that day too. Glug Glug Glug, G-E-L-U-G-U-G-U. It's pronounced Glug Glug Glug, I think. From Osaka played.
That's a name.
And it's like one of those things when I first started, doing my deep dives into the Japanese ska scene. Like there's this couple secondhand CD stores in New York, and my Japanese is atrocious. I really can't read Japanese at all. But they had a record called I Heart Ska Punk, and that was easy enough to zoom in on. And I was a fan ever since I found that one.
Okay. But
it's it's great. I recommend anyone that has the opportunity to go should go. I mean, but I'm hoping that I've made enough friends that I can at least put together the semblance of a tour, and then hopefully we meet the right people that can help make it a reality over the next year or so, just through networking and emailing and all that other fun stuff. But before that, the U.S.
yeah. So, and then towards the end, you're going to be playing with the Bosstones, so that's going to be pretty huge.
Yep. I mean, the whole tour is. That's at the very end of August.
Yeah,
I think we're still calling it the going viral tour, the whole thing. But
it spreads. It's
Yep. Well, that's what pandemics do. But yeah, I mean, let me just do a quick rundown of where we're going.
Yeah, sure.
So we start off in Brooklyn, and the next night we're playing in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, which is right outside Harrisburg, with Finks Constant.
Okay.
Then we're playing at this place called Grizzlies in Wyandotte, Michigan, which is, I'm told, 10-15 minutes outside of Detroit.
Okay.
The next night, and I think we're playing with this band Checkerboard Jive, CBJ, and there are a couple more bands being added to that. It's another one of those dates that we lost twice and had to rebook.
Okay.
So details still coming through. The next night, we're in Chicago, this Sunday the 21st, with Beat the Smart Kids and Malafacha. They just got the venue confirmed last night. I want to say it's the 10 Doors Bar or something like that, or 10 Beautiful Doors Bar. If you Google it up, it comes up. I didn't know.
Go to your Facebook page, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have an updated tour poster in the next day or so to reflect.
I was checking your website. I'm like, you haven't really updated it too much. I guess everyone uses Facebook now as their band pages and stuff.
I mean, that's the thing. I was told that, we kind of had to make a decision earlier this year, or at the end of last year, what we're going to do with our website, because our hosting was up.
Yeah.
And our web store stopped working because we didn't have our own security certificate. And, if you're going to register that, it's a couple $100. Yeah. And you know what? We really don't make enough money to really justify that. More people use the Facebook page or other vendor options out there that are not going to cost us $100.
Yeah.
So we update it, and I just assumed that it would, be going offline because we were told our hosting would end on January 1st, but it's still there.
You should just have the redirect go to Facebook at this point. Use your name. Sorry.
Yeah.
From a web guy. Sorry. Because
no, that's absolutely what I should do. I've got to get around to doing it. I could just go to GoDaddy and fix it, I guess.
Says the web designer that doesn't do freelance anymore because Facebook took all the business away.
Oh God. Speaking of the web, I actually just came up last week. Our trumpet player Chris has, he's a music teacher, mm-hmm. and a couple of his students found, the band website. And, we have that ad up there from when we were looking for a drummer. We've had a drummer her name is Kat for the last year,
Right.
but it still says we're looking for a drummer. So we started getting these like, you know, jokey emails from his students applying for the drummer position. And like, I had to like, I didn't know what was going on at first. I'm like, we've had a drummer for a year. Why are you asking? Oh, but your website says you're looking. I'm like, ugh. But yeah, I mean, we have to take that down. The reason we keep, I guess, the URL is because all the emails are tied in through the website.
Right.
And it's a little more official than, you know, the pandemic ska at Gmail.
Gmail, yeah.
Yeah.
So did you cover all the dates you're playing with?
No.
Playing with Pilfers, right?
Yeah, I keep getting thrown off track. Sorry about that.
That's all right. It happens.
Before we get to Pilfers, actually the show that's really kind of the coolest date of all on the tour. I mean, no disrespect to Pilfers. I love Pilfers, obviously. Mm-hmm. But Monday, July 21st, I know it's odd to think of Monday as a big date. We're playing at the Kitty Cat Club in Minneapolis. We're playing the Firewalkers tour kickoff LP release show in Minneapolis.
I don't know them. Are they kind of like...
I mixed them up. Sorry. The Prize Fighters album.
Yes.
It's flipped the two around. I'm sorry.
Is this a new Rocksteady band?
I'm sorry, Courtney. I'm sorry, Jordan. Jesus. Yeah, the Prize Fighters Firewalk album. And it's my favorite album of 2019 so far. It's really cool. Everyone should check it out on the Bandcamp page. You can pre-order it now. It's out on Jump Up Records.
Has it been out, though? Hasn't it been out?
I'm not sure. I think you might have been able to pre-order it or order it from Jump Up directly. I don't know if they're mailing them out currently. I was told that it is the tour kickoff. So I'm assuming that they're supporting the record. So if I misspeak, excuse me. But that's really cool. I really like the record. They got a really cool cover of... Tank by the Seatbelts. It's like the Cowboy Bebop theme. Okay. And rocksteady style on it. And it's just a great instrumental, like, ska and rocksteady record. Really in love with it. Then the next night we're playing in...
Fuck you!
Yeah. New York traffic for you. We're playing in Rock Island, Illinois. And that's part of something I'm being told is called the Quad Cities, which I guess is around the border of Iowa and Illinois. It's like Davenport, Iowa, Rock Island, Illinois, and I don't know what the other two are, but it's supposedly like it's kind of like Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Twin Cities. These are the Quad Cities.
Okay.
So we're playing there, and then the last night of the extended run, I guess, is at the new Longhorn Saloon in Toledo, Ohio, and that's with Pilfers, Stop the Presses, and it's a local band out there, Ego and the Maniacs, which is an interesting band name. I actually first met those guys when I was out with Pilfers a couple years ago. It was really cool that we were able to reconnect for that.
Are you playing with the Pilfers, or are you just like playing the same bill as them?
You know, I was asked to do the run and I had to turn it down because I'm already out with Pandemics. But, you know, that night, who knows? I'll probably sit in for a few songs or something. You know, I always leave that stuff up to Kool-Aid. I don't like to step on anyone's toes, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you like about touring, and what do you hate about it?
Oh, I probably should mention, sorry, 2 more dates. That's it. Just because I realized I'm not part of that main run, but August 2nd, when the Prize Fighters come to New York, we're playing with them in Brooklyn at Kingsland.
Kingsland, yeah.
And another gig at Kingsland we're doing on August 30th with the Scapones from UK. They just got off tour with the Specials.
Yeah, they're playing with Rude Boy George, I think, out in the Midwest during that tour.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, they're kind of, you know, hitting a bunch of big cities, and I think Rude Boy George is joining for the Midwest jump to that. Yeah.
Yeah. You seem very, very busy.
Yeah.
And you're playing with some great bands too. You're lucking out opening for the Ballstones. That's going to be huge. Yeah,
that's like a big bucket list item for Pandemics. I mean, they're one of my favorite bands. I mean, they're a lot of people's favorite bands, I guess. Yeah. But those shows are always amazing. I mean, I played a night of Throwdown a couple of years ago with the Porkers.
Right.
Then when they came over from Australia, it was sort of a like the core of the band, and then there were a couple of subs like myself and the drummer, this guy Kai Smith, who has like these crazy videos on YouTube of him playing like entire bands' discographies over a period of 5 minutes. Like they cut together like 5 seconds of every song in this one big like super clip. And it's funny, like later that year they had brought him to Madison Square Garden to play the Beatles discography in like 10 minutes. like every
I
single
think
Beatle.
Pete was telling me about that guy. Yeah.
He is. I don't know what kind of mind you have to memorize every single song, or at least enough of every single song that you can do it all in a row.
Yeah.
It's just such an odd thing. And I guess, it has a lot of crowd appeal because, those are some of the most popular songs ever written. But I mean, yeah, the Boss Tones are, one of her bands always put on an incredible show. Webster Hall is a great room. Bedouin Soundclash is on that show too. It's definitely one of the biggest shows we've ever played. And, just we're really proud to be doing it. I know our drummer Kat, is a huge Boss Tones fan. All the Pandemics guys are Boss Tones fans. So we're really excited about that one too.
So what I was saying, so what about touring? Like, so what do you like about it? What do you hate about it?
All right. So it's kind of like, I have this, when I get ready to do gigs, I always stress out about getting there. Like I'm always, nerve-wracking about running late or, rushing to get somewhere. But then when you're there, when you finally can relax, it's amazing. And touring is kind of like that. The build up to actually getting out on the road is, since I basically booked the entire tour with some help from our bass player, Vinny, on some of the connections in the Midwest. He's handling the Milwaukee gig, which we're unfortunately just lost 2 days ago. So we're rebooking now. And that happens, it's just miscommunications along the way, especially if you don't know all the people you're working with on a regular basis. But everything leading up to it, like between the prepping tunes to go, doing things like renting a van, booking accommodations, which I'm still doing right now. Now everything's finalized, or at least, set to the point where I can look up where to go. All that stuff, it just sort of consumes you. Like, it takes over every scrap of free time I have, because it's like when you're first getting the gigs, you got to send out press packages and do cold emails and try and basically convince people that have never heard of your band before that, to book you to play a show or to try and build a concert around you. And you try and network with other bands that are in similar positions as yourself, to try and ease that load a little bit. But once you're on the road, it's awesome. It's like hanging out with your friends for a week straight. And, some of those longer drives don't feel as long because you're hanging out with good people, listening to good music, joking around. It really kind of depends on the band. I've done a bunch of different tours now with a bunch of different bands, and every group is different and has their own thing. Like Bigger Thomas used to have these games that they would play in the car, like the iPod War, and they had this weird playoff bracket system, like where they basically compete for control of the radio for an hour, trying to either impress certain, contingencies in the car, who could play the better song or who could play the sexiest song or the funkiest song based on what you had on your device at the time.
That sounds like fun.
It is at a large group.
Yeah.
Other bands, like the Pandemics once did like a bunch of books on tape because we couldn't agree on music. So I had an Audible account and just said, I got 15 credits. What do you guys want to listen to? And we just picked a couple of books in our car.
That wouldn't put you to sleep though.
Some people it does. I mean, you definitely end up, buried in your headphones for part of the trip just because, everyone needs a little downtime every now and again. Yeah. But just going someplace where you can do your thing and, really get to hang out with everybody is really the best part. You don't have to worry about, I know it's work because you're literally traveling from place to place and performing, but when it's not your full-time job, it's really just time doing what you love. So I love that aspect of it, going out and performing for other people, going out and playing clubs and seeing new bands that you haven't seen before. But, the buildup is, a challenge. That's why, people like booking agents, do the job they do, because that is a stressful thing to deal with.
It's like me trying to book my Disney trip right now. It's like every day I'm like, okay, well, we got to go here. Then we got to go here.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. That times 8, because you're dealing with the needs of 8 people. I have to get a vehicle for 8 people. I have to get accommodations for 8 people. We have 7 plus. We have somebody doing merch for us on this tour. Our Barry player James's girlfriend Christine is coming with us again, so she's basically handling all the merch duties for the tour, which is nice because we can't be doing everything every step of the way, and it's nice to have somebody there who's able to handle all those little things like that we can't do while we're on stage, or basically, or sometimes just provide an outside perspective too. Like, cause you get kind of in your own head on tour sometimes. Like if you're doing something like, say, my voice can sometimes get, if I sing too many nights in a row, it gets a little hoarse.
Yeah.
It's good, if to have says like as a neutral observer that's outside of, the band on stage, I can point out little things like, oh, you're singing a little too hard. Maybe you should, try and step back the next night, that kind of thing.
I mean, with something like that, do you have like a remedy that maybe don't talk, or?
There's a lot of like different like new age common sense for me. That's definitely one of them. Talk as little as possible between gigs or between performances. We definitely tailor
like a whiteboard.
Or just a keyboard and just text everybody, the whole band at once. But there's little things like that. Like I've got this little drink that my wife showed me how to make out of apple cider vinegar, honey, and hot water, and maybe a little bit of mint if you have access to mint. And it's kind of like, drinking hot tea with lemon and honey. It just soothes the back of your throat a little bit. So it's not a cure-all. The only cure-all is really, rest and sleep. Yeah. And not partying too hard while you're out of the.
Yeah, that's another one. I don't really know too much of the history of the pandemics, though, Mike. So when did you start the band and all that kind of stuff?
Okay. Well, the first, if we go back to like the first inklings of an idea of the pandemics, probably back in 2007, I was working on different bands at the time. I think I was playing with Bigger Thomas and Rudy Crew. Spider and the Mad Dogs had just, starting to slow down, and I wanted to start my own project because I sort of found myself playing in nothing but two-tone inspired ska bands and, reggae ska bands. So I wanted to get back to ska punk, and, I just started messing around with a few different musicians, doing jam sessions. So the first jam session in 2007 with some friends, none of them are in the band now. But our first trumpet player, Chris Chatterton, was there that night. Our first guitarist, Gino LoBianco, was there. And oddly enough, 3 members of Baby Love and the Vandangos from Denmark were there.
I don't know them.
No? They were a Megalith band. They answered an ad on Craigslist. 2 of the guys just said, oh, we're in town on vacation and we're just looking to jam. Are there any, ska and reggae bands that are holding jam sessions or whatever have you? They said, oh, I'll put something together. And out of that jam session came like the first seeds of a song, Brain on Tap, which is like the title track of our first full length. And it just became something I just kept working at week to week. Because at that time, all the guys I was playing with were like 20 years older than me. So bands like, at the time, they weren't really rehearsing week to week. So, like, Bigger Thomas would rehearse once a month, once every 2 months. Rudy Crew, same kind of deal. I mean, everyone knew their parts. And I wasn't really on the inside of, leadership in either of those bands. So there really wasn't much for me to do. So I wanted to do it on my own. And I just sort of kept building on it and building on it and building on it until we finally had a lineup that stuck. That took about 3 years, and then the pandemics were there. And over the time, until we hit that threshold where we played our first show, the name changed once or twice. We were like a meat grinder. We went through so many different, members that would say, a lot of people like the idea of being in a band rather than committing to being in a band.
It is a commitment. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, then you also have like on Craigslist, you have all these people that they're basically looking for, they're looking for paid work. And, it's handy when you're in a pinch and you have, like these big gigs. But if you're just starting out,
Did we mention that we play ska music? There's no money in ska music.
Yeah. There are a surprising amount of, full-time musicians out there, professional musicians that have ska on their resume. I mean, not that they were in ska bands, but they are looking to play ska for money. And it's like, do you know what we do?
Yeah. They usually start from high school and then, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely been a labor of love. I mean, we've used, subs and hired people on occasion when the situation calls for it. But
yeah,
it took about 3 years to get off the ground. And then in the first 6 months or so, we recorded a record, a Patient Zero EP, played around some more. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of it is just, playing shows and trying to get bigger shows. And then you do your first tour. We did our first tour right when Brain on Tap came out. And that was a huge debacle to put together because we were, again, same thing. You put together gigs with band that nobody's heard of. And you just go out there and play your heart out every night. And you try and do it better next time. But I wish I didn't know this was going to be a video interview. Otherwise, I'd have like all my spreadsheets with a list of bands we played with. And
well, yeah, it's just easier to talk to you instead of over the phone, so I can see, so we're not like cutting each other off, like in the passive. Yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm doing it right now.
Yeah. It's funny though. The video right now, it's like you look like you just got slimed by like Slimer from Ghostbuster because the way the video is all like pixelated.
I thought you were going to say because you're sitting outside in like a 86-degree heat.
Yeah, sorry, I'm inside in the AC.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of privacy out here while we're doing this thing.
So I mean, how did you get into ska? Like, what was like the first album or show, and like who introduced you to ska?
Okay. Well, I guess the first time I really listened to ska music, I was probably like 13 or 14 years old. Well, I was in Boy Scouts at the time. I was on a ski trip. This little tiny rinky-dink mountain up in the Catskills. And I basically, we brought one of my friends along, and he was, into ska. And I'd just gotten like my first Discman, like Walkman.
Yeah.
CD. And he had, a handful of local ska CDs. He had the first Spider-Nick and the Mad Dog CD, the Scofflaws live record, Before You Knew Better by Edna's Goldfish, and I think like the first Long Island Ska Comp. And just, it was a long ride. It was like 3.5 hours to get up there. And of course, it's snowing, so it took forever. And I just borrowed those CDs from him for the ride up, and I just listened to them religiously until I almost wore them out before giving them back. And then eventually going to pick up my own copies, and I kind of fell in love there, and just I've been a fan ever since.
Cool. Do you remember like what your first ska show was?
Yes. My first ska show was, I'm trying to think. I went to go see Spider-Nick and the Mad Dogs, the Scofflaws, and I want to say like Channel 59 at this local crafts fair in Long Island. Yeah. They did like these town festivals, but they're really never anything more than like people with like homemade wicker baskets and some carnival rides, and they have like a live music exhibition for like people with families and stuff. And in the mid-90s, ska was popping, so that was what they had. They had local ska bands. And thankfully, being in Huntington, New York, we had, good local ska bands. We had the Scofflaws and Spider-Nick. And Channel 59, which is they were a ska punk band with Dan Deacon as the singer. He's like this weird experimental music hipster darling right now. And it's kind of odd to remember him being in this dorky ska band.
Oh, is that the guy that's like... that he's like always in the middle of a crowd, and he's got big glasses on, and he has this little computer or something, or like little whatever the hell he does. Okay, I've seen pictures of him all the time.
He's got like a table, and it looks like a bunch of like improvised instruments made out of like an old Speak and Spell.
I didn't know he was in a ska band. That's funny.
Yeah. Oh God, we could do a whole episode about that. They were. Next time you see JT, ask him about their website story. Because they couldn't get channel59.com. This is the internet age. People are just starting to make websites.
Yeah.
They got, I think it was dogpenis.com. They were,
I think dog penis is better.
It was available, I mean, imagine that. But they were always really fun. Their music was kind of nonsensical, and they, looking back, were not that great of a band at all. But they were always entertaining and fun. But that was my first show, and just from there were a bunch of little clubs in Long Island doing stuff. A lot of church youth groups would put on shows. Like I used to go to this place called the Old First Church, which was right in Huntington Village.
Where was Deja Vu or Deja One or something? Deja
One was in Mineola, and I went to a couple of shows there. I mean, that's the thing too. I didn't just go to ska shows. I still don't just go to ska shows. I mean, my second show ever was. Sick of It All, Ensign, and Kill Your Idols, I think, at Deja One.
Nice.
So, I mean, go figure, ska was the one that stuck. But I still enjoy, good old school New York hardcore every now and again, punk rock. I listen to a lot of different stuff.
I know. I just saw Madball. I'm like, man, I got to listen to more Madball.
We played with one of the dudes from Madball a while ago. Pandemics, I mean.
Yeah.
Like something in the Distractions. It was like one of this dude's side projects, and we had the show at Otto Shrunken Head. It was like the day after a blizzard in New York, February, and we basically adopted another show that had been canceled with the.
So the crowds merged into didn't know what to do.
Kind of. I mean, that thing. The show was in like White Plains or Tarrytown, and then they canceled because they got hit a lot harder than New York City did. So New York City the streets were plowed the next day, but they canceled the show, I guess, because they were expecting and then got 2.5 feet of snow. So I just said, hey, why don't we just bring your show to our show because you guys are already here? And it was probably one of the best shows I've ever played at Otto's, but one of the not very well attended because the blizzard.
Well, there's only so many people that could fit in that room anyway.
That's true. I mean, I've played a number of I guess you'd call them sold out shows there, but it's it only really fits like 30 people. 40
it's
people.
the rest of the bands that are playing on the bill.
It always feels like a good time, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that was where we played our first show.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, it's kind of sentimental to us in that regard. And we always like going back there. Like I've been booking shows there since 2004.
That's where we had our Rejunk 20th anniversary. We had Root Boy George play there, and we're like, there's not that many people there, but it's like there's enough people you can dance, and there's a crowd, so it's all that matters. Yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things where if it kind of sometimes it's better if you don't have too many people there, just because it starts to feel like a fire hazard.
Yeah.
But I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I love that place with every fireman being. Nell and Steve really give us something cool to do, or a place to do what we do, which is an ever shrinking pool of places in New York City, which is unfortunate. But
yeah.
So I mean, I always love playing there. I'll always go back there and play if asked. It's just yeah. I mean, we've definitely had I remember I did one show there with Rudy Crew, where it was during the winter time and everyone piled their coats on top of the PA. So it overheated, which shorted out right in the middle of the Rudy Crew set.
Oh.
It was like, I mean, the band tried to keep on playing like acoustic, like just, sans vocals.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Roy was not having it. He was not happy about that. Speaking of what, Radix Fest coming up. Congrats.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it started out as like a four band show, and then Cooley ran with it and added more, and then drama ensued, and
yeah, it's probably best not to go too deep into that.
We did it when Cooley was on the podcast. We talked about it briefly, but so I'm really looking forward to that. Like I just wanted to show on my birthday. yeah, I know. I mean, to be fair, I'm kind of on both sides of that. I understand all perspectives. Yes, I do, and we tried making things work, and just it was. Anyway. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about going back into your earlier career. So you were playing. When did you meet up with Spider Nick? That was like your first ska show, but then when did you join his band? Well,
I've been a fan for a long time, and I mean that's the thing. I started playing in ska bands in the late 99, 98. Everyone was into really into ska punk and third wave, and the Mad Dogs were kind of doing this like two-tone inspired stuff that not a lot of people were hip to on Long Island. Well, I mean, hip to, we were like 18, we were like 16 and 17 and 18.
Yeah.
So everyone was into like, Goldfinger and Real Big Fish and Less Than Jake. But, I still kind of skewed a little closer to more traditional stuff like the Scoutlaws, the Spider Nick and the Toasters. And, I basically, kept following them. And then in 2003, just throw a decade there. 2003, they mentioned they were looking for a trombonist, and I said, at the time I had been thrown out of Rudy Crew for the first time in 2002, and I was in a couple of ska punk bands that didn't seem to be going anywhere or doing anything.
Wait, I don't know anything about that. Why did he get kicked out of Rudy Crew?
Well, well, aside from not being very good at the time.
Oh, okay.
It was just more along the lines of Rudy Chris going through shit. All right, let me go back even further.
I thought Spider Nick was your first band. I didn't know that.
Oh, I was in Rudy Crew first.
Oh, okay.
2001, I started going to school up in the Bronx, and I saw like it was a new thing for me being able to go to ska shows on a weeknight, just because I was living in the city.
Yeah.
I used to take a subway down, and I saw lots of shows with the. This is back when Bucket was still living in New Jersey, and so there were Toaster shows often, and there were New York City ska shows all over the place. I used to go to Wetlands. I used to go to
Wetlands. Yeah.
yeah.
Conan High, Tramps, yeah, all those.
Yep. Yeah, and so I used to go to shows just on weeknights just because I was there, because in the city. Like I remember meeting up with seeing the Rudy Crew at SOBs, and this one short-lived concert series they tried to do at the Hard Rock in New York City that lasted 2 shows because they didn't have a cabaret license. So people
I didn't even know that. Yeah.
But she got talking, and Elle and Dan just said, "Hey, you should just come down and bring your horn and come hang out." And it was, Rudy Crew practices, especially back then, were just chaotic, craziness. Basically, just show up. There'd be, I was 18 or 19 at the time, so everyone would have, their own 6-pack of beer. So I'd drink for free, and basically was told, "All right, we don't have time to teach you anything, and none of the parts are written down, so just, listen and play along." And that became something I just got really good at doing. I got really good at just listening, writing down, and just learning on the fly. There was no time to slow down and teach somebody else new stuff. And, it was about a skill I use all the time. And, it was one of the things where, a year later, the drummer and singer of Rudy Crew at the time, Greenie, and this guy, Junior, both had to leave the country for various reasons that I'm not going to get into. But they both had to leave the country, which kind of left the band high and dry. This is sort of when Radix stepped up to be, the main singer, because at the time he was sharing duties with Greenie, and they just decided, I was this 18-year-old kid in college. I was, I was up in the Bronx. It took forever to get down to Soho to rehearse. So I'd show up to rehearsal an hour late. I couldn't make all the gigs. They said, we need to rebuild the band a little bit. We really don't have time to, to be working with more than 2 horns right now. And I kind of, as a kid, I was like, all right, it's fine. And they set me up with a couple of this other band, this odd project, Gaijin Nagogo, which is go-go music inspired by 70s, these 70s bands in Japan, mimicking northern soul bands in the UK. It was this weird thing, but it just became this cycle of me playing with other bands. And that's kind of when, I hopped up board with Spider Nick. Because at the time I was no longer in Rudy Crew. I had a couple of ska punk bands on Long Island, but I was living in the city, so I needed something that was a little bit more regular than bands with people in college, because people tend to go away when they go to college, so everything slows down. And it was something I played with the Mad Dogs for a decade. I learned an awful lot, and just around 2005, 2006, when Nick was in the process of moving off Long Island and transitioning to his new life upstate, I started playing with Bigger Thomas.
Okay, yeah, I was going to get into that. Yeah, so how long did you play with Bigger Thomas?
Bigger Thomas I played with from 2005 until 2013, and it was good times. I was playing with so many bands at one point. I had to make a decision.
Yeah,
and it was time to go. And at the same time, Bigger Thomas was also winding down in 2013, just because they have had a couple 2 drummers, this guy Johnny D and Jim Cooper, and both were busy with other projects as well. And I think Mark and Roger really wanted to sort of set off and do their own thing, which I think is where Rude Boy George and Heavens Be came from.
Yeah,
it was just the parting of ways. Everyone would have more things, and it gave me time to do Caricatura and Pandemics, which was right around the time when that split. That started.
I was gonna say, did you set out to be a singer, or did you just you couldn't find anyone to say, "Oh, fuck it, I'll do it"?
Well, I'm not going to name names, but we had a couple of different singers in Pandemic first started, and that was the big thing I wanted to do when it started with Pandemic. I wanted a project I could have more direct access to in terms of songwriting. So I was writing lyrics, and I was writing horn lines, and I kept on telling these singers that we had, like, no, sing it this way. And I'd sing it a certain way, and they just never really got it right. So when the singer we were working with at the time just, in an odd fashion, made up some crazy story to get out of coming to rehearsal for like the 8th time, I was like, you know what? Why don't I try doing this? And yeah, I mean, it was just sort of stuck that way. It's just something I just did on the side. Like, I've only had one vocal lesson in my life. The same way I've only had one trombone lesson in my life too. It's kind of like just pick it up and as you go along.
Well, I tried playing a trombone. So someone I knew had a trombone. I'm like, let me try. And I'm like, nah, this is not for me.
Well, that was the thing. First, I played trumpet. So like I had a bit of a background there from just like elementary school and high school and junior high school, orchestra or concert band. So I had lessons, through that, and basically just picked up trombone because my high school jazz band needed a trombone player. They said, here, we'll get you lessons. And then just the lessons never really materialized. But, and then, when I graduated high school, somebody stole my trumpet after a gig. So it became a real easy decision to be a trombonist.
Yeah, no one was to lug that shit around. Yeah.
So that's sort of where I've been ever since. I mean, and I've dabbled with other instruments too. Like I play the bagpipes too.
Really?
Yep.
So you gonna do the Irish song or Irish album?
I was playing him in Bigger Thomas for a little while.
I didn't know that.
Like I would do that's the thing. There's only really 2 hugely busy times a year for bagpipers. So you get like the month before from February to April, and then like around Columbus Day sometimes they have the march and the parades then. Yeah. But it was something I did while I was in college because the college had a drum pipe corps, and like right around St. Patrick's Day one year, Bigger Thomas did like a run of dates with Dave Wakeling's English Beat.
Yeah.
And it was like one of the gigs was on St. Patrick's Day out in Sellersville, Pennsylvania, and this big theater. Nobody had ever heard of Bigger Thomas before out there, but everyone was there for the beat. And I just had my bagpipes with me because I didn't have any other choice. Like I couldn't go and drop them anywhere. So I think they were the key of G or key of A, if I remember. It's been a while. The song Monkey Man is in the same key. And I just told our drummer, Johnny, I was like, look, when we go into Monkey Man, just lay out for a minute. Let me do something. And I played Monkey Man on the bagpipe, and everybody like lost their shit in Sellersville because it was St. Patrick's Day. And like,
is there video of that?
No, unfortunately. They did video like the next time we were in Sellersville because they wanted to catch it again. But it was a really cool little club there. It was like an old movie theater or playhouse that they turned into like a music venue.
Okay. Yeah, they still have a lot of shows there, I think, right?
They do. I mean, their main jam is like bluegrass and country, but every once in a while they do something like Big Bad Voodoo Daddy or the English Beat or something that really kind of can vibe, I guess, with their clientele out there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it was from like 2002 to 2000 and maybe 12. I was playing with pretty much anybody that I could, play with, like 5 bands at once.
I know. I know you as the guy that's like plays trombone with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I've kept somebody asked me, I was like, how many bands you've actually played with? And I kept a list of like all the bands I've subbed for and sat in with. And it's easily over 50 bands in the last 20 years. Like, between, and the ones I've done like longer stints with, obviously I've learned more for like those gigs with Porkers. I learned a full set. Pilfers, obviously I know most of the tracks at this point.
And you guys played a couple songs with Roddy and Linval from the Specials too, at Characters.
Oh God, that's another story.
Yeah, please tell me.
I don't know how much I should do. I really like Linval and Roddy. Roddy was always one of the coolest guys ever. He was very casual and laid back. Linval was a little more high strung. Like when we did that one gig with him in New York, I set it up basically as like a meet and greet for fans, so Roddy could do his own thing and showcase his own music. And Linval just decided he was going to come, and we're like, oh, more the merrier. That's awesome. You can sit and do these tunes. And we're during sound check. I guess there was just something that wasn't right, and he basically gave the Pandemics like an hour and a half clinic on how to play a handful of special tunes, and just Linval ended up not being happy with how some of our guys were doing it, so he opted not to do it. I just told Roddy, like, look, whatever you want to do. We don't have to do this. We can just play our own stuff and you play your stuff and be fine with it. And no, he's like, no, we'll be fine. I'll still do it. I don't care. It'll be fun. And it was. We had a good time.
Yeah, it was fun.
I mean, but Linval was just like, I can't deal with this. And it's to be fair, he wasn't supposed to play in the first place. You're like, all right, you do you, man. It's cool. Thanks for coming.
Because he played, I think, the night before on the pier somewhere in Manhattan, and they did, I think, the night after. I think that's what it was. Yeah, like they did that big pier show, and then they had like they were basically made New York their base of operations, and they did day trips out to Long Island, to New Jersey, to Asbury Park, to Philadelphia. Just did a bunch of gigs surrounding New York City. And on the off night, I approached Rise like, would you like to do a show? And I think Linval basically rushed the stage during Roddy's set and played a bunch of songs acoustic, some of which we were supposed to play with Roddy. And it's all right. I mean, Roddy's like, at one point, he's like, I think we're supposed to play these with the Pandemics. Oh, but don't you want to hear these songs? They were written before. The crowd's eating it up, and it's like, we're just sitting there like, what are you doing? I was Facebook friends with Roddy. I think I posted the last time I saw the specials. I post he like he does. He makes his presence known of how he feels about Terry, and I'm like, oh, tell me how you really feel, Roddy. And I think he quickly deleted me. I'm like, for that, all right, whatever. I'm like,
yeah.
I know there's bad blood, but I was just making a gag. But I guess he probably didn't want to see photos of Terry.
I guess. I mean, I've never met Terry. I understand that certain people can have history. I've been in enough bands to know that is certainly the case.
Yeah.
I mean, but no, I've never had a problem with Roddy. I mean, I've met a few of the special.
He was nice when I met him in person.
Yeah.
But.
Really sweet guy. So I mean, but he's definitely a character. We'll leave it at that.
Let's move on to We'll talk about that. So, all right, I think we're winding down here. I think the only really thing I wanted to do next was, since you send me Jeff Goldblum news all the time, I wanted to do the Goldblum trivia.
Oh God, I'm gonna fail this miserably.
That's okay. All right. Gotta insert the theme song and. Okay.
There's a theme song.
Yeah, I made a little theme song where I just have him going, All right.
Well, sure.
Life finds a way.
What are we waiting for? Let's do it.
Number one, what was the first Marvel MCU movie that Jeff Goldblum's character Grand Master appeared in? Was it the Avengers Age of Ultron, Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, or Doctor Strange?
Okay, so I know he was in Thor Ragnarok because there's this whole extended sequence with him in it, but I'm not sure if he was in... it was Ragnarok, because that's the one with the Gladiator Hulk, the one that sort of grades as the Planet Hulk saga. Oh man, I'm trying to think, because I'm wondering if he was in that bit with the Collector earlier, and I can't remember. So yeah, I'm gonna say probably Ragnarok. No, maybe Dark World. Sorry, what were the options?
I said the Avengers Age of Ultron, Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, or Doctor Strange.
I'm going to change my answer. I'm going to say Age of Ultron. Maybe he was in the little teaser at the end.
No, it was a teaser at the end of Guardians. He was in the end credits dancing. So it was a kind of a trick question.
Okay.
All right. Number two. Back on an old bit of Late Night with Conan O'Brien, Jeff appeared on a segment called Goldblum Secrets. And in the bit, he said, people always ask him, how do you pronounce his name? Is it Goldblum, Goldblum? And his response is A, Goldblum, B, what is a name? Or C, I always tell them the same thing. How dare you speak to me? It's a classic bit. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I haven't, but the joke answer is obviously B, but I can't imagine him saying anything other than C. It's got to be C.
Yes.
It's C, yeah. All right, number 3. What is his character's last name in Independence Day? Is it David Levy, David Smith, David Levinson, or David Feinstein?
Well, his father, well, not father, sorry, his boss was Harvey Firestein, so it's not Firestein. I just can't remember his last name. Shit, I remember his father. I remember I think it was Rosen something, but like David. Like,
Yeah.
oh God, I spent an inordinate amount of time watching that in college. One of my professors did this. I went to school for computer engineering, and one of my electronics engineering professors had this project where we basically built a TV on an oscilloscope. So you designed your own circuit to read TV signals.
Yeah.
And the movie he used was Independence Day, so he just had it on a loop, playing over and over again in the electrical engineering lab, so everyone could keep working on their raster images. So I just grew to memorize the entire movie. Besides Rosenstein, I guess is my answer. If that one of the answers, what was the answers?
The answers were David Levy, David Smith, David Levinson, or David Feinstein.
It could be either A or C. I want to say Levinson.
Yes.
Yeah,
Levinson?
yeah, David.
I thought so.
All right, number 4. In the Grand Budapest Hotel, what rank was his character Kovacs? Was it Deputy Kovacs, Lieutenant Kovacs, Sergeant, or Captain? I've never seen this movie. I'm just pulling questions out of my ass.
I absolutely love this movie, but it's got such a huge cast. I'm trying to remember.
It's kind of hard to pick what his rank was, but I'm finding questions on like IMDb.
I'm trying to remember who he was in the movie, because I know that
It was Kovacs.
he was Kovacs, but because what's his name? Ed Norton was like one of the gendarmes in the movie, and he had a rank. Captain, I think. I want to say captain.
No.
It was deputy.
Deputy.
All right, and finally, this one isn't a multiple choice question. It's just I want to hear your best Jeff Goldblum impression.
Goldblum impression. So that's the thing. I can only really do the one from the one everyone knows is like, life finds a way, like that. Like the dress.
Hey, that's all you need to do. That's all you needed to do.
I mean, I remember my favorite Jeff Goldblum movie. Actually, I saw him in was Faye Grimm. I don't know if you've ever seen those ones.
No.
It was the sequel to Henry Fool, which was it's a great movie. It's weird because there was like 20 years between the first one and the second one, or a long time. But basically the premise, it's got what's his name in it, who plays Dr. Venture.
James something.
Urbaniak, that's it.
Yeah.
But he's like this I think he's like this investigator in that movie. And I remember just being this odd like little indie film, like, oh, it's got these like minor characters. It's got James Urbaniak, and the woman was Parker Posey, and just out of nowhere, like, what the fuck, Jeff Goldblum's in this? But like, it's a trilogy of movies, and the third one hasn't been made yet.
Oh, I've never seen these.
Yeah, it's a good film. Henry Fool and Faye Grimm were the first two, and the third one, I don't know what the third one's gonna be called, but I remember doing like this like online questionnaire thing for James Urbaniak, and I asked him a question about like, well, when's the third one coming out? It was funny because there was all these Dr. Venture questions and a couple in the office, and it's like, oh, Henry Fool, yeah, that's like, I love that film series. I'm like, because I guess everyone else knows him from those things, and that was just this odd, obscure thing that he did like back in the 80s.
Wait, when did you get to ask him questions?
It was this online web forum thing. I can't even remember what the name of the message board was, but basically they mailed him a bunch of questions, and it might have been Reddit actually, like some sort of
like IMA or whatever, IMA, whatever.
Yeah, ask it thing. Yeah. But yeah, that was pretty much a long time ago. And I remember asking him, I was like, I loved you in this movie, and I really enjoyed the sequel. When is the third one coming out? And I'm kicking myself because I can't remember the name of the director or and the film. It was like a writer-director guy. He did both.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know, since I didn't see the movies.
It's been like a decade since I've seen it. Fake rim.
But all right, that's all I really got though, and I think we're pretty
Yeah,
much
no,
done.
it,
So
yeah.
go see the Pandemics all over.
coming to a city near you. You know.
A lot of Brooklyn shows out in the Midwest.
Yep.
So
Brook- real quick, Brooklyn, Mechanicsburg, Wyandotte, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Rock Island, and Toledo.
and any
Yeah.
new music you got coming up or anything?
We do actually. We're working hard on our. I guess it'll be our second full-length record. Yeah, that's the thing about having like lineup shifts, because it's kind of like starting over in some regards.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you've got a bunch of people that, you know, were used to playing the newer songs, and then you have to teach the new guys the older songs as well. So it's kind of been a weird transition from like we left things at Hard Headed back in 2015. We have all these songs that, you know, hadn't been recorded yet, and it's trying to balance those with the new crew, because we've written new songs with those guys now. So, you know, we're playing a few like 2 or 3 new songs on this tour that we've never played before. And, you know, hopefully when we get back in the fall, we'll be working on the next record between some other stuff that I'm working on. Believe it or not, it's not confirmed yet, but I'm probably going to be subbing with another New York City ska band in September for a couple of weekends here and
Nice.
there. So more news about that when I can officially confirm that, I guess. So
Yeah,
just,
let me know.
Watch the web.
The interwebs. All right,
Yep.
man. Well, thanks for the conversation. It was great.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got to do one of these.
Yeah, you've been on my list. I just you had some you needed something to plug, I guess.
Yeah, no, usually how these things go.
Yeah. All right, man. You have a good one.
All right, you too, Brian.
All right.
Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.